Welcome back. And in today's video, I decided we're going to make one of those little inspirational signs that you find at most home stores or Hobby Lobby. And for this project, I got a simple 4x2 sheet of quarter-inch plywood and some wooden fence planks that I picked up from one of the big box stores. Can you tell? Sarcasm implied. We're going to start by cutting down each plank to 3 feet. The reason for that is it leaves just enough left over from the original plank to cut the sides and the tops. Next, we're going to cut down the remaining pieces to 1.5 inches to be used as the side and rails. And I got so much crap in my last video for not using a push stick. Yes, I own one. There it is. And yes, I'm going to use it. So first things first, we're going to take our pieces, move them off to the side, put them on the right side. We're going to raise up our blade and we're going to measure exactly 1.5 inches from the edge of the blade to the fence. We're going to go ahead and make sure that our blade is not too high. We want to make sure that the blade is about 1/4 of an inch higher than whatever it is that we're cutting, sometimes even 1/8 depending on the material. And a couple passes through the saw, we're going to end up with our tops and sides. Check out that mad push stick action I got going on. And yes, I own several push sticks. Thank you very much. Now with all our panel pieces cut down, that's going to be the back of the sign, and I have to figure out which way looks the best, and I also have to figure out how I'm going to combine them together. Nope, that doesn't look good. I know I'm going to use pocket screws. So I decided on pocket screws, so off to the Craig jig I go. Having 2 drills, or rather a drill and an impact driver, comes in quite handy. Pew pew, pew pew. I know, I'm a geek, whatever. So having 2 comes in quite handy because I don't have to fight that infuriating let's swap the bits back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So after a few adjustments of the clamp, which I took a few tries to get right, I began drilling the pocket holes I needed to put them all together. Okay, so let's get to attaching these suckers. So first thing I do is I put a clamp on either side to help hold them together. If you've ever used pocket screws, they have a tendency to push the pieces apart, and the clamps just help these little suckers from not moving around or sliding around while I'm driving the screws into oblivion. Now I could have added wood glue here, but pocket screws are pretty sturdy all by themselves, and seeing as it's just going to be hanging on the wall and not carrying any real weight, the pocket screw should be more than enough. Now it's time to cut the tops and the sides down to size. I held off on this as long as possible so I could make sure that the tops and the sides were the exact size as arranged by the back. Now we're going to go ahead and use brad nails to attach the sides and tops, and specifically because I think you're tired of hearing me say Parker screws instead of pocket screws, I'm going to leave that in because sometimes I just forget how silly my Boston accent can be. Now, after finding the correct size that I need for the brad nails, I'm going to go ahead and start attaching the sides here. I'm going to go ahead and start gluing these up. Go ahead and slap a couple brad nails in. I'm going to start with the edge, making sure that everything's lined up, wiping out any sort of glue squeeze out that seems to happen, and tickety-tackety off to the races we go. Now, once all the tops and the sides are attached, we have to start thinking about finishing, and we're going to go ahead and stain this. I decided on a dark blue to get a kind of dry effect, aged a little, but still kind of midnighty kind of feel about it. Truth be told, I made a mistake. This wasn't the color I was going for, but it still looks pretty good. So after putting it all on with a sponge brush and wiping it off and getting the transparency level that I wanted, we continued staining until we had the whole thing covered. We will put that away and wait for it to dry, and while we do, let's get started on some mountains. I needed some random amount of mountains at random sizes, so decided to figure all that out on cardboard before committing to using wood, because I have a plan, because of a lack of a plan. Trust me, it all makes sense in my head. Once I had them drawn out, I began cutting them out, and I had to cut a few random smaller ones because I was not happy with all of them being giant mountains. Having all my cardboard mountains in hand, it was time to arrange my landscape in a pattern that made sense and looked reasonably like a landscape. After that, it was simply transferring the pattern onto the piece of wood and then cut them out. Decided to use the jigsaw to cut them all out. I wouldn't really recommend this way because you have to have a pretty good steady hand to cut a straight line with the jigsaw. Don't tell anyone, but I cheated by using my miter saw. Shh, don't tell anyone. So after sanding them and rounding off the edges a little bit, I decided to line them up, get a general idea how it looked, make sure everything was straight and I was still happy with it. Then I separated them out into piles of two because I had three different colors of stain that I wanted to use. The first one is a golden pecan. The second one was a red, kind of cherryish looking one, which I really, really liked. It was kind of dark, but I liked it. And the last one was called Phantom Gray. Ooh, spooky. No, not really. Cool gray, though. Here they are, all laid out. I love the colors and the pattern, and it's starting to look like mountains, or pyramids, or arrowheads. Trust me, they'll look like mountains in the end. And now my favorite part, sanding. Luckily, this wasn't a hard sand. I like the blue, but I was going for a rustic look, so I wanted more of that wood grain to pop through. So a light sanding with some 180 grit until I got just enough wood grain to come through. And now it was time to glue them all up and tack them into place with some teeny tiny brad nails. And the camera is not in the right place. There we go. Once I got them all glued up, it was time to let them set and move on to the next step. Now, I could just buy some decals from Amazon, but if you remember from my last video, I have a Cricut. That lets me cut out my own decals. Sadly, that means I have to take some time and weed them all out. If you aren't familiar, weeding is the process of removing the vinyl in the negative space so only the decal remains. From there, it's a matter of transferring the decals to the finished piece using some contact paper. I decided the mountaintops needed some snowy mountain caps. I could have found some online, but I decided to hand make some and very carefully transfer them on. Happy, snowy little mountain caps. And just like that, everywhere are trees. I wasn't sure how many I would need, but I know I need to clean up the mess I just made. Like Bob Ross says, I have a tree here and there. I forgot to record me applying the quote decal, but I'm pretty sure you get the idea. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and smash that like and subscribe, and I'll see you at the next one.